there we are with that. Craig sent me this story with John Canzano. Had an article, I guess a podcast, but it was summarized on a radio station out of Salt Lake City that there is a Pac-12 CEO meeting next Tuesday. And a quote from the interview, "I do think there's some motivation from the presidents and chancellors to wrap this up." Well, we hope so. And they do too. So there is something coming up with that. And even made the comment that if things are going to work out with the deal, if it looks like it's going to be what they need, then you might even have something leaked before then on San Diego State and SMU. So it's not like, okay, we have a deal, and then we're going to add a couple of teams. Because if you think about it, the Big 12 lost Texas and Oklahoma, or at least they knew they were leaving. They didn't wait till the new deal. They then added 4, and then later on, a year later, they had the new TV deal that Yormark and the extension with ESPN and also Fox.
Yeah, it just, every time I think about San Diego State and SMU, it just feels like the response that, we heard from Robbins from Arizona the other day was, he was somewhat enthusiastic in my opinion about it, but I would say more enthusiastic about Texas and that being their best option in the Pac-12. It was kind of lukewarm, so I wonder if they even do that. But it seems to make sense that they would, but I don't know if they just have a groundswell of support from everybody among the 10 to do it. But I expect they've got to start making moves here and announcing things and getting to the point, because the clock's ticking, and every time, look, even though some of this stuff may not be true, the more that it's out there, the more that people get frustrated, and the more that you look like you're scrambling to make a deal that may not be the best thing for you. So all this goes on for the Pac-12. They're best to just get things done and get them done as soon as they can, but quickly sailed about a year ago.
Yeah, this whole thing's just weird. This whole, the back and forth and the various reporting and all that, it's all been very strange when you really, kind of sit back and view it all. Because, for example, what time's ticking? There's really not time ticking. They really don't. They're not there's no hey, next Thursday you better have this done or you can't play football anymore. They're not on a timer. But to I guess at least address the piece first, that was something I guess that was more of an opinion, but I know he's well sourced, and so I don't think that you're just wildly throwing out things if you're him. I think that's probably half opinion, half, what he's gathered. Obviously opinion based on the facts gathered and what he's heard. So I'd lean into, early next week seems to be like there's a lot of smoke. They've got the meeting that's coming up, and, he, seemed to think that would be good timing, and just all the smoke that's in the air right now. Everybody talking this past week from various schools, all of them saying that they expect to be in the range, but mostly saying that they expect to have a better deal overall. You have that combined with the timing of the meeting and just the fact that, when I talk about how weird this is, there's a lot of different angles of that, but he, mentioned the kind of, to Paul's point, this feeling of they got to get it done. Everybody's like, oh, we got to get it done. I think it was the Arizona president who was sitting there saying, hey, I'm trying to tell everybody, what's the rush? Why are we rushing into this? And the entire reason why they appear to be rushing into it is because of all the outside noise, which is just so wild to me that that would cause a group of presidents and, these CEO, these conferences, these TV networks, and not so much the TV networks, but, to feel like, hey, we don't really need to get it done right now. We don't have to do it right now. But because the noise outside is so loud, we all just want to get done with it. I guess it's very similar to the Big 12 just biting the bullet with Texas and Oklahoma. They didn't have to arrange a deal a few weeks ago, right? But why did they do it? Because I guess they came to a deal that they liked, but also because of what? They were tired of hearing about Texas and Oklahoma. So they may have cost themselves money by, perhaps they cost themselves money because they just wanted to be done with it. I don't know if the Pac-12 will cost themselves any money, but it does sound like they're costing themselves some extra time that they do have allotted because they're just sick of it and want to get it done. That was one of the takeaways that I had from the article was, or from the opinion piece, or however you want to the blog, however you want to classify it, that was one of the things that I took away was, they could very well, like, there's not a timer running on them. At least not one that's like a doomsday clock where if it's not done by next month, they're screwed. So, like, that's what's kind of crazy is that, they very well may come to an agreement next week, but part of the reason why is because they just want to be done with it at this point because the outside noise has grown so loud. And I just thought that, and I understand that, like, how you see people bow to pressure on, like, Twitter and social media when it comes to certain things, but I just figured, like, no way conferences are going to, like, rush into a TV deal or not take their full allotment of time.
Because of Twitter?
Because of Twitter, but it sounds like that's part of why they're, like, there is this, like, we need to get this done is because Twitter's so loud. Like, the anonymous West Virginia guy is, like, we can't take it anymore. Or the anonymous, Big Ten fan speculating about, like, whatever the case may be. Like, it sounds like having as much of an effect on the timing of this as really anything. And that, to me, I don't know about you guys, but that just seems wild to me. Like, if you step back from it for a second,
it's
that seems crazy to me. But that's the world that we live in now, and that's, that social media chatter and pressure. But anyways, that's an angle that I think we gotta reanalyze at some point of, like, how social media forces things sometimes, even for CEOs and commissioners and presidents.
Well, I think the social media has forced decisions.
A lot of things,
when it comes to discipline, to other things. I think social media, it's like, when we talk to Mac and I bring up something, he doesn't even pay attention to that. Now, he has people on staff that keep him, I'm sure, aware of what's being said.
I mean, like, I think that you have to be, like, aware, but also like filter to the point of, like, okay, what's the real problem here? Okay, like when Chick-fil-A had their issue of, getting protested all over the place, they weathered the storm. Like, they're not going to close up shop or, do anything differently because their CEO, affirmed some religious beliefs that are not everybody else's. They weathered the storm and went through it. And for better or for worse, they're the same company they were beforehand, but they didn't do anything drastic. They didn't change what they were just because of Twitter, because they wisely made the decision of, like, all this too shall pass.
And it did. You make that's your point. Yeah.
And I think that if I'm the president of the Pac-12 and, I keep hearing, like, Twitter is going nuts and going nuts and going nuts, my first question is, okay, who exactly is tweeting about it? And if they say, some dude is a West Virginia fan who thinks he knows everything about realignment, has got all these people in a tizzy, they'd be like, well, does he give money to our university? Is he one of the power brokers? Now, if you've got a really loud power broker at a couple different institutions that's, publicly on social media or wherever, barking, then you're probably concerned. Like,
I would think a power broker would be barking in your ear or in an email or a text or a meeting, not on social media.
So you would know anyway. Yeah. Right, exactly. So that's where you would be concerned. So if I'm the president at Arizona State and I've got donors that are very publicly saying this is stupid, we've got to leave, then I'm panicking. But if I'm like, well, who said it? Oh, this guy from a Kansas State website or, like, whatever. Like, I mean, he doesn't make decisions for these universities, so I can't worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, that to me was just something of note. That was just a sliver of just an interesting takeaway of, like, how much that impacts things that you wouldn't think otherwise would be impacted. I just, even for a president or a big-time donor to see chatter on Twitter is this is or that's going to happen to the Pac-12. I mean, even if you take it to the school president or to anybody of authority, are they really like, oh gosh, really? Like it's wild to me to think that, like, that builds up to the point of where you feel like you have to rush something. But I do think that, like, it did ratchet up just the talk to the point of they're like, okay, let's just get this ish done now. And I totally understand that. And they feel confident based on that they're going to not only get it, or it sounds like it could be done early next week, but they're also confident that, it will be done and it will be better overall. And to what degree, I don't know. But that's now been stated a few different times. And then, yes, there's also he discussed the expansion piece. And like everything else, it was kind of like, I think this is going to happen. But again, I'm pretty sure he's basing that on the information he has. And so there's few that are as well sourced, I would think, out there as he is, and he was pretty 50-50 on SMU and San Diego State, but they do make sense. I mean, from a footprint standpoint and from a growth standpoint and those things, it's easy to see why they would go that direction. It's also easy to see, depending on what the money is, why they would not and why they would just stay where they are. So that's going to be a very curious piece of that if it drops, of whether SMU and San Diego State are involved.
254-33